I think this is exactly what would have helped me too in managing this project. So I didn't necessarily have an idea of what I'm in for. And it wasn't necessarily clear who was going to lead in the project. It wasn't even entirely clear what the students are going to do. So all of these things were sort of like, we developed them as we went along. I think we did it for the first time. Everyone did it for the first time. Nobody had students involved in this way before. So it was very much trial and error. And some things worked really well and other things didn't. And obviously expectations changed as we sort of went along with all of it. And there were quite a few things where I was like, oh, I didn't realize that, really? Oh, how are we going to do that? So there were a few moments where I thought to myself, well, that's, completely different from what what we initially talked about, because the project had developed in a different direction. And I think it can be expected of a community partner to, be prepared for there to be a bit of give. I think you need that. You need to realize that the project develops as you go along. But I also think there needs to be a framework within which you keep the project. Otherwise, it's just sort of like, it sort of starts to go off into all kinds of directions, and that might make it difficult to bring it back together. I think that's one of the things that when I look at your list, it's managing the expectations, absolutely, and making clear where the responsibilities for different things lie. So this is what the student does. This is what the community partner does. That's what the university, the academics, the professors contribute. This is the person that holds all the information and holds the project together. So once these things are clear, I think generally it's easy to work together. And these were some of the difficulties we experienced. So when I look at your list of, okay, these were some of the challenges, like, yeah, quite, yes, our challenges too, I think.
Of course, every engaged learning project is in a way unique. That there's always something unique, but there must be something in common. So this is a start. And with the CaST team in Malaga, we sort of discussed the possibility of this website gradually evolving into not just being a forgotten website, an outcome of, once again, finished EU projects. There are a lot of them, but we're sort of hoping that it would gradually evolve into a sort of wealth of information for all kinds of people who are involved in these projects.
Yeah.
So this is what we're trying to do.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there anything you might want to add to the list, or was there anything that you were sort of hoping to find?
Well, it was interesting when you said that some of the students' output was a bit flimsy. And I found the same, that obviously, so we had 5 students and some of them were spot on in what they delivered and others were not. And I wonder I've done various different projects with university, and the last one I did before Hidden Exeter, I was part of the interviewing process. So I had a voice in choosing which students I, as a community partner, thought the right student for this particular project. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you get it right, because somebody might interview amazingly well and then not be the right person for the team that you have at the end. So that's just, any interview for any position is like that. But at least, you sort of feel that you've had a chance to speak to people, and you sort of, you ask them the questions and they come back with some sort of answer that will hopefully give you an idea of this might work, or maybe they have expectations that we can't fulfill, because they say, the students also have expectations. So when we say managing expectations, it's not just the university and the community partner, it's also the students, because a lot of students will just simply have to tick a box to say, okay, tick box, I need to do this to, to finish this degree. I need to tick this box because I need work experience and it'll look good on my CV, whatever else it might be. But a lot of students will also want to do this specifically because they know the job I want is exactly this particular project, that it will give me the experience I need. So afterwards I'll have, I'll know so much more and I'll be so much better. Or I want to work with this organization. I want to work with the people. There's different reasons for, why students would come to the Priory and join us for a project. But the more they know about what we do and what we can offer, the better the fit will be later on in the team, I find. So, and one of the students we found in previous project, she's been part of previous project and then she came again for others. So she just sort of stayed with us because she realized it's not as a university project, just as a volunteer, because she realized that's the right kind of thing for her to do. That's her path. And that's sort of what you want. You want students to continue to be part of your organization. And I think this is the one of the questions. So so what comes after? And for us, if the students who come want to continue to contribute to what we do, then we've achieved our goal. We haven't just given them the experience of the project, but we've also made them part of what we try to do as an events venue and a community building with, well, being a heritage building too, almost 1,000 years old. It's very important to have people from lots of different walks of life to be part of that. So if they stay, that's great. That's what you want out of it. And sometimes that works because people manage to stay in the vicinity, and some people will just move away because they're done with uni and they go off. But some will come back. So the latest, what I would like to call success with student internships, one of them came back from London for a specific event because they wanted to be part of it. They had sort of contributed to some part of it. They said, well, we're going to come back. We want to be there. We want to see how it works with the public. We want to speak to people about what we've contributed, not just say, oh yeah, well done, tick, we've done our bit and off we go to do something new. So it's those relationships that are important, I think. And I think maybe that's also something that can be looked into. How can you keep those relationships alive? This is another thing. It's important for community partners to have some sort of idea of what engaged learning means and what theory is behind that. So I think if there's a platform with, okay, so there's this paper available, and then I don't know, some country they've done this, and then that's a paper, people in the academic world will know about this, and then they can say, oh, here's a link, look at that. And then we can also, dip into that very rich resource. So if everyone contributes a bit of what they hear and know and read, then, this is going to grow into a huge corpus of information. I would also like to be part of the pre-project, as it were, so the pre-production of the whole thing, where we set out the parameters of how we work together and what's expected and who's doing what. I think that's what the learning that I take away from the last project, that I think it needs to be clear who's doing what, who's responsible, how far this, what can we expect of a student, how much responsibility can we put on the student. And then, of course, because it was paid internships, there were a limit to the hours that the students had available to do this. Equally difficult because you need to manage time, and in many ways you need to help them manage their time. And that will depend on, some students are really quick and can produce lots of work in very little time. Other students will take a lot longer. So, and all of this needs to be accommodated. So it's almost like it needs to, it needs to have two people one who knows the student side of things, and one person who oversees the rest of the project and holds it all together. So there needs to be an admin function, almost like a coordinator type person. And we didn't really have that. We had a few people who were doing this, but nobody really that was officially in charge. And I think that it might have helped a lot. Well, it will help, next time around. What we'll need to know is like, this is the person who says, and once they've said it, we go ahead, and not, oh yeah, well, you go and discuss. Because you go and discuss usually means 3 weeks later, there's still no decision. It's another thing we've learned. I mean, this works. And I mean, of course, the student will wait for the professor or the community partner to say something, because maybe the student hadn't, we haven't given them the choice to say, well, this is what we choose to do, and that's how we move forward, because maybe that wasn't made clear. So I think that's the sort of thing that needs to be discussed beforehand, before you bring the students on board, I think. It's interesting to hear when things don't work, because that's really where the learning happens, if you think about it. If everything runs smoothly, well, there's nothing to do anymore. Tick, done, we'll move on to the next. But it's where the challenges lie, the tensions that need to be resolved. That's where the learning is, I think. And if that can be on the website, then people, will see, oh yes, we need to think about that before we start with our own projects. And I think that's the important thing.